Welcome to challenge number 5 of the 2021 International Scrapbooking Day festivities here with the Scrap Gals. I'm Tiffany, and this is a challenge about using stitching on your layout. I'm thumbing through several different stitch templates that I own just as an example to show you that you can buy this sort of thing in a pre-made format, right? You know, you can just lay that down like you would a stencil, but instead of smearing paint or something on it, you would punch the holes using these patterns as a guide. I have some from Amy Tangerine and some others from We Are Memory Keepers. And they really are a smart investment if you like to stitch. And I would recommend them. However, for this particular challenge, I wanted to make sure that I could come up with something that anybody could actually reproduce on their own, whether they had those templates or not. So we're actually not going to be using the templates. Instead, we're going to use some stamps. You see the title stamp there that says baby cakes? That's the one that I'm going to show you a few variations of for today. So I stamped that 3 times in the same black ink just for convenience sake. And I used my acrylic block, of course. I also have some thread. I have a punch. And then I also have the Amy Tangerine mat. Now, that punch is something that you could, definitely use another tool if you had one. But I used it since it came with this set and it was designed for it. For each of the 3 stamped images, I decided that I would do something a little different for the stitching variation. And so the top one, I actually punched holes in the word cakes. In the middle one, I did a freehand kind of border around the entire title. And on the bottom one, I actually traced a circle and did some freehand stitching there, but I did it as a back stitch so that there wouldn't be any open spaces. Of the 3, I think I like the bottom one the best, and that's the one that I'll likely use a on a project of some sort. Your part of the challenge is actually pretty simple. Choose something that you would like to add some dimension, some stitching to on some sort of project that you already have planned, and then either use a template, draw it free form, or use a stamped image as your guide to create the holes for where you want to stitch, what you want that stitching to look like. Here are a couple of tips. First of all, I recommend using all 6 strands of the embroidery floss because that creates a nice thick chunky line that helps hide any mistakes that you might make. Tip number 2, If you're going to try to cover a word, my advice is to try to use a thinner font in a light color or a lighter color than your thread. I used the black ink for all three of these examples, but it really was too heavy for the one where I tried to cover the word cakes. So that's something to remember. Tip number 3 is to make sure that you are not putting any knots on the back of your paper. You want to just run your thread under some nearby threads, or you can use some washi tape or some scotch tape in order to secure it. Tip number 4 is to just feel free to play. Play around and see what you like. I was able to do these 3 stitched variations in under 30 minutes, and that includes the stamping, the threading, the sewing, the cutting, the all of it. And it was fun. It was kind of relaxing. So if you haven't stitched on a layout before, this is a great way to get started. All you really need would be a mat that would protect your surface while you punch holes. You need a needle, some embroidery thread, and something to create the image itself with in order to have a guide. I can't wait to see what you make.